So, on my assumption the other day that my bike hadn't broken down, it was just me fiddling with the kill switch, turns out that's not the trouble with it. So, I had to... I'll tell you the scenario. I pulled into a lay-by to take those shots that you saw at the end of the last video. My bike cut out, like the engine cut out. I wasn't sure what that was. It wasn't a stall, it just stopped. And then when I tried to restart, I couldn't restart. And I fiddled with all the switches, and the guy turned up to recover me, which I paid for because I didn't have the one that's included within my... I didn't have the number for the recovery people that's included within my insurance policy, which was really stupid. Won't be making that mistake again. Then he said, "You kill switches on." So I think I must have been fiddling with the switches. Anyway, started up. I got to the Tesco, started up again, got home, and went to start it yesterday to show my dad, and it didn't start. And so I called the recovery people again, and it turns out it's the same recovery company that my insurance policy uses, or the same, you know, third party or whatever. Came and picked me up today. Got the bike started with a kind of running start. If you push it, it starts, but the starter motor doesn't turn over properly. Just the ignition pressed. So we're going to... I've rode it up the road to a place I got it MOT'd, and they're going to look at it today. So no bike today. Might get it back tomorrow. It's kind of good because all the money that I saved on buying it and transporting it, I've now spent on repairing it. Oh well, my brother did me a good deal, and it'll be, when it's all, you know, flattened out and smoothed out, it'll be fine. So let's have a catch up. Where are we at? Bike is running okay, hence I'm wearing a motorcycle helmet, and I'm at the beach at just about sunrise. It's great, I'm really enjoying it. I'm going to do it some more. I'm into work really early, it's only about 7:15. And I haven't videoed for a few days, as you quite well will realise from this. So I said I was going to take you to the park with me and Ali, and instead I didn't, and had 3 days of no filming, maybe 4 or 5 days actually. So here's some clips of Ali being weird in between.
Ali! Hiya! Ali? A? B? C? D? E? F? G? H? I? J? K? L? M? N? Yeah. O? P? Q? R? S? T? U? V? W? X? Y? And... Good girl!
Thank you, Mommy. Thank you, Mommy. Alida. Alida.
What do you think it is?
Oh, it's a chicken.
It is a chicken! Not a ladybird. And not a spider. You silly Billy. Go and eat your chicken then. Oh, what a disaster. Oh, this time I thought you was a ladybird and needed dogs to help. And here's a little recording of a monologue that I wrote with some footage of some things. Here. The days got away with me. Or perhaps I got away with the days, or maybe the fairies, I'm not sure. I had the idea to carry my camera with me, as I always do after giving its battery a good charge. It came along for the ride, but at no point did it leave the bag to record the photons of our day's activities. There was no compulsion to film. In the bottom of a second-hand rucksack it sat, on a trip to the local charity shop where we, Ali and I, donated some of her clothes, far too small for her now. She grows so fast. The volunteers cooed at her being so polite as she is. I think we're doing quite well at this parenting lark. We left them to their milky tea and blue rinses. We talked all the way there and discussed our plans of playing with her orange football in the park on a circular route home. Upon arriving at the park, initially all thoughts of football were swept aside for pushes on the swings and goes on the big slide. With Daddy on the big slide though. To the grass, and we set up some sort of strange game of her creation. I try and learn the rules but fail and just get sighs of "silly Daddy" and squeals of laughter when I kick the ball right. The tattered knots of the goal net waft in the light breeze. Frayed ends of rope knotted over and over. The ball still gets through though. Chase it quickly and back to the game. The rucksack holds yet another entertainment. I'm not sure who it's for. The other week Ali stood transfixed by the sight of kites being flown on the beach. So upon finding one for next to nothing I couldn't resist. The strings that attach to the kite are twisted and knotted, not unlike the failing goal net, but this web could stop a ball. The exuberant 2-year-old tries and tries to throw the kite up into the sky as clumsy fingers fiddle with knots and canvas. The wind drops and our overly technical kite flies just above head height at the peak of its trajectory. 5 foot nothing then. Home to a nap and the smell of chicken stock. Today the dog walk takes us to the Towans, the large sandy hill ridge that is one side of the valley that holds the small town. The other side a long curving beach that stretches from the harbour wash to Gadrivi Lighthouse, the same one Virginia Woolf wrote about, and then beyond that nothing but sea and sky. The far side of the wash is a more secluded beach, Porth Kidney. I remember smiling at the signs on the paths winding down to the shore, proclaiming in no uncertain terms that this was not a nudist beach and there was risk of prosecution. We don't cross far enough or climb a sandbank high enough to see those things, I just remember that they are there. We hear the sea and get a few glimpses of blue as we crest a peak of marron grass and brambles. The dogs rummage around the fox shit and rabbit holes. This place sparks thought tunnels galore. The marshy parts take me back to Andy Serkis's wonderful portrayal of Smeagol and Gollum in The Lord of the Rings. How I love impersonating his voice. When the snow fell last year, making these hills look like the Alps, or at least what I imagine the Alps to look like. I've never travelled far. I saw some snow on some peaks when I visited Scotland though. Snowboarding, I've done that, but an indoor snow slope in Milton Keynes. With my first ever bandmate, Howard, his name was. We drifted apart after starting uni together, intent on forming a band, and never made anything other than terrible demos with a headset mic. Funny how one of the latest pieces of music I created used worse technology, an earphone as a microphone. Looking down back into the valley, the journey now heading home, with a pair of now panting hounds, the train rattles on through the middle of the houses heading east. To my mind's eye it's going north. Everywhere is up from here. As the train disappears from sight, I remember my dad building me a Hornby railway set. I think much like the kite thing, I'm not sure who the present was for really. He got to indulge his knowledge of electronics, something he has often tried to share with me and I gained a very vague understanding of, going so far as to drill a hole through a chimney breast so we could fit this thing in. The model church had choirs that would sing at the flick of a switch. The whole thing could be set to night time and the stars would light up. Everything smelt of balsa wood and bostic glue, wood chips and alcohol. It was never finished. We moved house. I don't think that train set was ever put back together. I wonder if the LEDs for the stars still sit embedded in the walls of that attic. Today's walk was time travel. Not a lament, no grasping for times past. Just reflection on their effects on a small boy, now a man of 35. On the way back down the rough tarmacked hill, past houses with massive, immaculate lawns, surrounded on all sides by wild, twisting blackberry bushes that threatened to invade at any point, I laugh at myself for the feeling that was beginning to creep over me. The frustration had begun to manifest itself around this premise. My motorcycle is back off the road again. I've barely had the thing 2 minutes. The garage hasn't called me. It's been 2 days. Why do I smile? Less than 2 years ago I became homeless, jobless and was penniless, and in severe debt. Now I'm complaining my motorbike, my first vehicle I've ever owned by the way, is in need of fixing, and that I actually have the money to do that. Oh, do be quiet, Peter. I arrive back at the place we call home for now. My beautiful family are inside.